Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Emily Sophia, aka M Mighty Sophia, here to break down for you all to the very best of my ability the latest episode of HBO's Westworld. We are on season 1, episode 4, Dissonance Theory. So, spoiler alert before we dive into the mad thick of things together, as I shall be endeavoring to bear all in this review. And yet, the further we progress, the more confusing and complicated things become. So, I will do my absolute best to share all of my thoughts and theories and reactions with you all, but inevitably there are going to be key points that I probably fail to address or overlook entirely. So that is where you guys come into the picture. This video, this review, is just the beginning of the conversation, and I generally try to do them as quickly as I can after the episodes air. So I will see what I can do to help elucidate the situation of Westworld for you guys this week. Let's get into it. So, we are finding ourselves in the midst of the gods, and they are not necessarily benevolent beings, not in the case of Westworld. And by gods, I mean, the likes of Dr. Ford, his late associate Arnold, and, the friendly hazmat suit man who we now know is canonically called the Shade. One who walks between worlds and comes from hell to, oversee the affairs of the hosts. We are getting much further into that mythos in this episode and into the nature of the game of Westworld and the maze and those who have their own stakes in said maze. We now know that Dolores has been acquainted with it via Bernard Lowe, who is trying to coax her towards some degree of freedom. And now there is a question as to whether or not he actually knows what exactly lies at the end of the maze. I am assuming, I don't know if this is glaringly obvious or if this is still something that's more hypothetical, but I'm assuming that the maze is essentially the path that Arnold created for the hosts with their bicameral minds to be able to achieve consciousness and therefore freedom. I'm assuming. Again, is that like super okay? We're all on the same page here. Why are you talking about this like it's some kind of revelation or still speculating? I don't know. This stuff is bananas. I feel like I need to take a philosophy, psychology, computer science, artificial intelligence, machine learning class or two before I can advance in my ability to comprehend what the show is putting down. I mean, hats off to the creators of this series for putting their heads together and trying to synthesize such an incredible array of ideas. Oh my gosh, Siri is thinking that I'm trying to talk to her, so I'm putting my phone away. Which is a little bit freaky as I'm talking about machine learning and all these things, artificial intelligence and whatnot. Anyways, so yeah, that's all going down. Now, the maze. We get to see the maze from the perspective of Dolores, who has just been alerted to the very existence of this enigmatic thing, and she has kind of hitched her wagon to that of William and, unfortunately, Logan and company as he tries to push their merry crew towards the Black Hat Way and lead them on a merry trip to Pariah. But she is at the same time pursuing her own ambitions now, even though they are as of yet relatively unformed. She's not quite sure what it is she's going for. All she knows, and she puts it in a really cool metaphorical way when she's talking to William about this, is that she now realizes that she is kind of like the lost steer, you know, from when she would herd cattle with her father, who is now dead apparently, since she's out of her loop completely. All of that business is crazy, and I hope to touch on that subject soon. But anyways, so the best way that she knows how to describe this to William is that she's this lost steer who is, all she knows is that she's fleeing the slaughter. You know, she recalls from her perspective being one who would worry about that steer that strayed away from the rest of the herd, and how she would fret, and now she's realizing that she is in that exact same kind of position, but also has enough enlightenment, or whatever it is you want to call it, to understand that even though she doesn't know exactly what awaits her, it's better to be pressing into the uncertainty and making her way forward than it is for her to erase her pain, to go back to whatever life it is that she had before. You know, that's only going to bring more madness for her, as mad and crazy as things are going to get in the future. You know, to see all of this and then to willfully return to a cyclical existence, even for Dolores, who is this artificially intelligent being and not a human, the level of thought that she's operating on, it would make no sense for her to want to return to that. And Bernard, I think, in dealing with his familial stuff and kind of seemingly veering away from Ford's vision for the park, he is willing to indulge her and to put her on this path. And interestingly, that is potentially going to either put her at odds with or on the same page as Maeve, who has gone on quite a journey of her own. And personally, I find her to be one of the most fascinating characters in the show so far. She is definitely one to watch, and I'm very eager to see potentially a partnership arise between her and Dolores, as they both realize from different perspectives that maybe there is a path to freedom, to understanding, to some kind of sanity, because now they're both realizing that either this world is totally fucked or they are, and they've got to get to the bottom of it one way or another, you know? So to see the two of them converge and join each other on that path would be super awesome, especially since they would probably, well, I want to say that they would kind of become antagonists to the Man in Black, or he would be the antagonist to Maeve and Dolores, assuming that we have greater empathy for these characters who have been tossed around and abused and killed over and over and over again. Like I say the word abuse, and I willfully recognize the fact that I am more inclined to identify with these knowledge-seeking beings who simply want to understand. I'm much more readily prepared to side with them than I am, say, types like Logan, who all he wants to do is kill and pillage and plunder and fuck, you know? Like, that's not exactly my bag. And to be fair, I am in human society that has laws and morals, and those are things that I have internalized and I personally believe in and subscribe to, and, you know, so... Anyways, but we gotta talk about the Man in Black, because this guy, I think that his journey definitely got fleshed out quite a bit more in this chapter. And for as disturbing as his actions can be, I definitely think that his stake in Arnold's legacy runs even deeper than we realize yet. And it totally makes sense that for these decades that he's been vacationing in Westworld, that when he finally stumbles upon one of the original settlers of Westworld, who is responsible for this place, finding somebody who managed to break the rules entirely. How could a guy like the Man in Black not pursue like a deeper understanding of how that came about, and of what Arnold arguably put in place with the maze? And now, as a guest, it makes you wonder, like, what is his end game exactly? Because he actually tells Lawrence at one point, like, hey, you ever thought about the fact that you're a prisoner and I could be the one who's setting you free? All of the murder and destruction that Lawrence has seen thus far, like, does it all have a purpose in the mind of the Man in Black? Is he more altruistic than we give him credit for? I don't know. The guy is he's definitely in the gray zone as far as relatability and things of that nature. I don't know what to think of him yet. He freaks me the crap out, but at the same time, is he trying to put the AI on the path towards consciousness? And what is his reason for doing so? It's kind of tough to operate on these dual tiers of reality when we're watching Westworld, because we're not only trying to figure out what's going on the inside, but also simultaneously we have to account for the stakeholders in Westworld, and like who the guests are on the outside in civilization. Like, what is human society even like when people aren't donning their cowboy hats and bandanas and hoop skirts and whatnot? Like, what is anything? That is the 3-word question that I have been asking myself week after week since this show first overtook my existence. Just what is anything? Good Lord, I need a drink if I'm gonna process this further. But yeah, so what is he all about? Is he on a positive mission of sorts? I mean, we know that as he himself expressed, he doesn't want that color by the number shit. He wants to arguably explode the bounds of this reality, and to tear through its fabric, and to reach the truth. And now it appears that he actually, I don't know if I saw this incorrectly or if I'm misremembering, but it appears that in the preview for next week, he actually sits down with Ford himself. And again, I don't know if I am remembering that wrong, but anyways, what is he all about exactly? And could it be possible that that Dolores and Maeve and whatever other hosts find themselves wrapped up in this business? Could they side with him, or would they ultimately be vying with him? That is something that remains yet to be determined. But again, I love the idea that the gods among the hosts are regarded certainly as these divine beings, these deities, but thus far the way that that the humans have been conceptualized is as, as demons, as agents of Beelzebub, and it all seems very much in line with what seems to be the show's central thesis. It takes it definitely deals with the negative sides of humanity, and of the way that we can exert and flaunt our power to exploit others. That is a theme that is dealt with very heavily. I think the more we get into the thought processes of the AI, of the hosts, the easier it is to demonize the people who have put this whole thing into motion, and who are so willing to indulge the wealthy and allow them to act out all of these vices, you know. And Ford is certainly emerging as a very villainous figure, especially in that dinner that he has with I believe her name is Teresa, and she is kind of upper management trying to figure out what exactly it is that he is doing with terraforming the park and with sending all of these host storylines into disarray. It's actually interesting that Dolores' story in particular is mentioned by one of the employees at Westworld headquarters. But then again, she is one of the original hosts, if I'm not mistaken. So it makes sense that as like an offhanded comment or some kind of formal technical report, it's like, hey, where's Dolores at, you know? Our gal has been around since the dawn of time, and the fact that she's not waking up and kissing her dad on the cheek and going to paint in the plains is a bit of a cause for alarm, I would say. But anyways, so he seems to have this idea that he can see all things clearly, and definitely puts himself in the position of a deity, and thwarts his power in front of Teresa, in terms of how he is able to completely freeze all of the AI around him. And it's very creepy as the waiter is stuck pouring this red wine, and Teresa's glass is overflowing like blood. You know what I'm saying? So we get to see the shades from hell. We see something's going on with Ford. I don't friggin' know what, but he is terraforming the biznatch out of this place, and clearly has no qualms about what it is he's up to. All super ambiguous stuff, and I hope that it's fleshed out even more. It seems like there's been so many exposition heavy episodes, but like there is so much to unpack in this show that it is far from surprising. So I'm curious how much you guys are continuing to enjoy the show and find it fruitful. So let me know about that. But yeah, so there seems to be this sense of potentially dueling legacies between that of Ford, who seems to think that he is so far removed from the madness of his colleague, but then there are hosts that seem to be tapped into Arnold's program. And then of course Dolores and Bernard is going behind Ford's back and hooking up with Teresa, and good God, I feel like I'm gonna have to start diagramming this stuff out because it is just so ridiculously bonkers. But I love the note that the episode ends on with Maeve realizing through this kind of premonition that she's adapted. She realizes that Hector is coming into town and that he is somebody who could enlighten her about the hazmat mask figure that she has drawn time and time again. And then when she sees the members of a native tribe coming through the area, she sees this carved figurine of the very same figure from her nightmares, her dreams. And then she discovers that bullet that was not successfully removed. And this is, colliding at the same time with her expanding inclination towards consciousness. And what she says at the end is that, this confirms to me that, number one, I'm not crazy. And number two, none of this matters, which is really fascinating because it mirrors the mentality that that many of the guests have adapted to, and it's putting her on their level and ultimately on track to exceed humanity at its current stage of evolution, if you will. So it's all very very thrilling stuff, the way we get to watch this unfold and see who it is that we identify with the most, who we want to see succeed, and to see people's ambitions take form and shape. Yeah, I am super thrilled to see what lies ahead of us in this season. Another thing that was really interesting was the juxtaposition of when the man in black went to prison to spring Hector free for the outlaws and to be able to get the intel that he wanted from the woman with the snake tattoo. Like, before he could actually set off his explosive, like that one action of his was directly approved. You know, it's like how many of these actions are authorized in that way. You know, it's got to be overwhelming to process all of those requests and to be the person who is in the position of saying, yep, sure, give them whatever they want. That's gotta be a little mind-numbing. And speaking of mind-numbing, I think that I am all tapped out for this review. There's a lot more that we can get into. Oh, and by the way, I feel that stuff with Wyatt is also becoming part of the bigger picture and seems to be integrated into whatever it is that Ford is launching. And then another fun note is Dolores sees images of the church that he's creating. And so we don't know whether that is a memory that was planted through Bernard or if that is an actual experience that she's had. Again, so many things to talk about, so bring it up in the comments. Let's take that business there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will be back with my review of the season premiere of The Walking Dead. So you guys take care of yourselves, and as always, I will be back before you know it.